in with breaking news from the NFL. All right, Adam Schefter joining us on SportsCenter. You just posted on social media, Adam, news surrounding John Harbaugh. What can you tell us?
Arda, the New York Giants and John Harbaugh are now finalizing an agreement to make him the next head coach of the New York Giants and to make him the first head coach hired in this tumultuous coaching cycle. No team was more aggressive than the New York Giants in pursuing John Harbaugh, who spent Wednesday in the Giants facility meeting with various team owners, officials, even players, including their quarterback Jackson Dart. And obviously, he was supposed to be talking with the Tennessee Titans and the Atlanta Falcons. Right now, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen because all focus is on getting a deal done with the New York Giants. The Giants look like they're going to be getting the coach that they wanted, and he is going to be the guy that succeeds Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka to bring stability to this organization that has struggled to capture that. Somebody who coached 18 seasons in Baltimore, the Giants want to have a similar type of run in New York with the Giants.
All right, Adam Schefter, breaking news here on SportsCenter. Thanks for your time, Adam.
After a 6-1 season will return. On that note, well, the Giants, they had a big meeting today. It was with John Harbaugh. It's Harbaugh's first in-person interview after already talking to the Falcons. Since the Ravens fired him, Harbaugh has been contacted by a number of teams and has been vetting them before deciding to interview. NFL insider Dan Graziano here with us, and with much more. It's been just over a week since the Ravens fired Harbaugh. Graz, as more jobs have opened up, where is Harbaugh on this search?
Well, he's doing his first interview today with the Giants in New Jersey. He's been there all day. I'm told the meeting has been extensive. He's toured the facility. He has had conversation with quarterback Jackson Dart, and not just a hi, how you doing, but like, how would this work kind of conversation. As of now, the plan is for Harbaugh to fly home to Baltimore tonight and potentially meet with other teams in the coming days. The Tennessee Titans have been trying to set up a meeting with him at his home in Baltimore tomorrow. It's possible that he takes that meeting. At this point, we don't know for sure. The Atlanta Falcons still in the mix. And we're watching some other potential spots for openings. The Green Bay Packers continue to have conversations with their head coach, Matt LaFleur, about a contract extension. They're still working through this. As of this morning, it's possible they reach an extension with Matt LaFleur, who has 1 year left on his deal. It's also possible that they don't, and that this becomes a 10th head coach opening at some point in the coming days. A couple of candidates that are getting a lot of interest. 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh has been requested for interviews by 5 teams. But by rule, he was not allowed to take any of those interviews until yesterday at the earliest. Saleh has said he plans to take those interviews after the 49ers play their playoff game against Seattle this weekend. So starting Sunday, he would be talking to teams potentially about their head coach position. And former Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski has interviewed with the Falcons, the Ravens, the Dolphins, the Raiders, the Giants, and the Tennessee Titans. Stefanski willing to talk to anybody who's interested in talking to him. Seems like he has a chance to bounce right from that Browns head coaching job into another one. If he doesn't, he'll be a candidate of interest for one of the multiple offensive coordinator jobs around the league. But Stefanski, a hot candidate on the head coaching market, even just a little more than a week after he was fired by the Browns.
And keep in mind, during his time in Cleveland, he opened up with 2 playoff appearances in his first 4 seasons and 2 Coach of the Year awards. Graz with the latest, the coaching carousel in the NFL.
About the Steelers opening, whether that was a good one or not.
All right, so we don't have Pete, but we have Lige Duzable and Danny Cannell here with us on set because we're going to go through what is the best, what is the worst. Before we get into it, just want to talk about what maybe separates one job from the next. The last time we saw this many, not that long ago, 21-22 season, there were 10 head coach openings. We're at 9. So, Danny, I'll come to you first. What makes one job stand out above the rest? I'm guessing if you have your franchise quarterback, that might be a little
bingo. That is a huge part of the equation. Obviously, it extends to the entirety of the roster, but if you know who your quarterback is going to be, and if you know he's somebody who you can build around is going to be there the next 5 to 10 years, that makes it a very, very attractive job. So there's also things like, draft position, cap space, general manager. Are you going in with somebody you have a relationship with? Are you going together? There's a ton that goes into it, but I do think quarterback has to be the top of the list.
Without a doubt, it's number one, and I want to touch on something you finished with, synergy between the GM and head coach, because I don't think people really dive into that enough. DK, you're not always going to agree on every subject, but you got to be in step, right? You have to come together with a common solution for the betterment of the team. And we've seen so many storylines where, after the fact, when a coach gets fired, that him and the GM weren't on the same page. And usually you're not going to have a lot of success if the head coach and the GM do not have that synergy. So to me, after quarterback, that's the most important thing. The head coach and GM have to be in step.
Okay, so let's talk about the best openings there are. And there are some teams that do have a franchise quarterback here. Lige, I'll start with you. What is the best opening according to Lige Douzable?
To me, without a doubt, it's the Baltimore Ravens, because you have Lamar Jackson. And not even just Lamar Jackson. When you look at some of the skill position players they have, and Zay Flowers, a guy that went over 1,200 yards. But the coach coming in there is going to have a guy that's a multi-time MVP. No other organization can say that right now, DK. So when you look at it, to me, the Ravens make the most sense because you have Lamar Jackson, you have Zay Flowers, you got King Henry in the backfield. So on the offensive side, you're going to get things right. Now they have to fix some things on the defensive side, but the most important thing that we talked about earlier was you got to have that franchise quarterback, and the Ravens have that.
I thought about the Ravens, but I did not go with them. I do think there's some concerns as Lamar's injuries have added up and his play's kind of tapered. Derrick Henry is getting up there in years. We've seen how running backs start to fall. I know he is. I'm just going by the course of history.
Yeah.
I might surprise you with this one because they don't have a quarterback yet, but they do have the #1 overall pick in the draft. I'm going to go with the Las Vegas Raiders. You have the #1 pick I just mentioned, so you're basically going to get Fernando Mendoza, who I think is as sure thing or as close to a sure thing as you're going to get. There's always the risk of bust, and there's always a risk of that, but I do think he's got the mental makeup. I think from his play, his film, it's outstanding. The mobility kind of fits what teams are doing now. So you've got your quarterback, and by the way, it gives you a pass for a year or two as you're kind of developing your young quarterback. And they have a good core nucleus of talent. Max Crosby on the defensive side of the ball. You got Brock Bowers, who is one of the best young tight ends. You've got Genty, who looks like he could be a featured back. And you have a ton of cap space to play. And I do think because of the laundry list of bad hires that they've made, I think that actually would give you some extra time. And you mentioned continuity. What better way to have Tom Brady put a more concerted effort into building the Raiders, going around it. And also, by the way, maybe being able to mentor a young quarterback like Fernando Mendoza. So for me, I think the Raiders are very attractive.
Okay. I was going to say, I like that pick. The only concern is, and you brought it up, right? Right now, that organization is paying 3 other coaches. Right? So it's like there hasn't been continuity when it comes to the head coaching position. They will move on from you quick. So if you're a coach going there, you would probably like to have a deal where it's like 5 or 6 years where there's some skin in the game where, like, they're going to give me some time to build this up. Because you talked about it. There are a lot of holes on this team. They do have Brock Bowers. They do have Max Crosby. But besides that, there's a lot of holes on this team. And to DK's point, they have a ton of cap space to spend to bring in free agents. But it's going to take a while to get that team together.
And in that division?
It is the hardest division in football.
But we've seen before, like, things kind of turned upside down. The season's been incredibly unpredictable. And I totally get what you're saying, Amanda, but I don't think any coach looks at any job. Like, of all the things we mentioned, we didn't mention, like, competitive nature of the division. I think coaches, the mentality is I can beat anybody. I can go and win. Good luck getting past Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, but that could be slowing down.
It did slow down this year.
This year, for sure.
And so now let's get to the worst ones. Lige, what, in your opinion, is maybe one of the worst jobs that are out there right now?
So I'll mention two, and I think me and DK are in step with this one. The Miami Dolphins. One, because Tua Tagovailoa is guaranteed $54 million no matter what next year. So you have to figure out, is he going to be a part of the future, or are you going to move on from him? And then when you look at it, they're already over the cap. And then Tyreek Hill, what are you going to do with him? Because if you cut him, it's a dead cap hit as well. So going into that scenario, you literally are over the cap. You don't probably know who your quarterback is going to be. And then when you just look at the players on this roster, like there's a lot that you have to do to turn this roster over to be a competitor in the AFC East. So to me, this is one of the worst jobs. And I think Arizona is the next one because of the same situation with Kyler Murray. And the Arizona Cardinals, whoever takes that job, they actually might have to keep Kyler Murray because when you look at it, DK, it's not a strong free agent market when it comes to the quarterback position. And then the draft got weaker again with Dante Moore going back to school. So you may not get your quarterback in this draft. So there's not a lot of options out there. You may be stuck with Kyler Murray. So I think, to me, those are the two worst spots if you're a head coach looking for a new job.
I really wanted to make a case for the Dolphins to be like a good landing spot. And I would love for them to get John Harbaugh. And we've seen that there's a strong interest in there. Yeah. And I think that's why they hired Mike McDaniel. But one of the reasons why I think the Dolphins are the worst job is they probably have screwed this up. Like, they probably aren't guaranteed to get John Harbaugh, so they fired Mike McDaniel, and now they're going to be like, what do we do now? And they're just going to hire somebody because they have to. The ownership, the higher-ups, it just feels like a dysfunctional organization. From everything that they've made over the past 5 years, it feels reactionary. They've got Tua under contract, as you mentioned. They're in a horrible cap position as far as being able to go get free agents. They've got the Tyreek Hill headache that they have to deal with that is not resolved yet. It's a mess in Miami, and I would love to see this organization turn around. As somebody who grew up rooting for this organization, just in talking to Dolphins fans, there's so little hope. I do think John Harbaugh is what they need, some stability, somebody with a reputation that brings some credibility to what's been the laughingstock of the NFL, and yet I have zero faith that they get it done.
So let me ask you this, though, because earlier this week, and this is before the Steelers thing happened, but still it was when there were 8 openings, and I'm so sorry, I forget who it was, but we asked multiple people, where does John Harbaugh land? Everyone said Miami out of our experts. So why is that the answer, and do you still stand by that if you ever did?
Oh, I think it's the answer because he's
not the answer for the Dolphins, the answer for John Harbaugh. Like, we asked people, we asked a lot of our experts.
Why would the Dolphins be the answer?
Yeah, and
I don't think it is. And by the way, if John Harbaugh wanted the Dolphins job, he would have already taken it. You know, and I know he said he wanted to take some time, but he's also making these evaluations. What are the best options available? He knows what's at stake, his legacy. He wants to add another Super Bowl.
Correct.
And he's looking at this, and while South Florida is a great place to live, it's great weather, it's just not a great place. I think it's a very risky job for a coach of his stature to take because it could tarnish his legacy if he only lasts 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I think it would be tough for him to come down here to everything that DK said, right? He's trying to, cement that legacy, right? He had so much success in Baltimore. Coming down here, he literally would have to build this thing up from the ground up. And again, they're already cap-strapped, so it's going to be tough for them to bring in free agents of like mind that John Harbaugh wants to bring in to change the culture on this roster. I think the Giants make a lot of sense for him. And I've heard that supposedly Brian Daboll, the ex-Giant coach, is called the Giants and called John Harbaugh and saying, you should take this job. So I know the Maurer family probably has an affinity with John Harbaugh. I think he'd be a great fit in New York.
I don't know. People are very lucky. Like, we're on week 20, basically, of the NFL. I don't know who the experts were who said that because it's somewhere on air. I'm going to find out, and I'm going to report them.
Got the receipts.
Exactly. Really quickly, Danny, where do the Steelers land for you? Because, like I said yesterday, Pete and Leger, whether it was a
I'm
good
gonna guess
job or
Leger
a
was
bad
towards
job.
the top of the pack.
No.
Wait, it was
No?
if it was a good or bad job opening.
So I think it's toward the top of the heap.
Really?
Like, I don't think it's towards the bottom. I didn't consider it for number 1 or 2, but I do think they're not as bad off as we think. They do have the 21st overall pick, and I think Ty Simpson, who said he's coming out in the draft, would actually be a young quarterback that they could get at that spot and then slowly start to build around and finally find a quarterback that they draft high and they stick with. I know it didn't work out with Kenny Pickett. That pick to me was way riskier than what Ty Simpson is. You've got cap space to spend. You've got an organization which will stick with you. Like, they've only had 3 coaches. That's been well documented. I think it's got a winning tradition. I think it's a pretty healthy locker room from the standpoint of what you're going to be working